This episode is brought to you by Batiste Dry Shampoo. Whether you're on the go, at the gym, or getting ready for a night out, Batiste has a dry shampoo for you. Refresh with over 10 signature fragrances. Or try Batiste Hint of Color, a tinted dry shampoo that seamlessly blends with your hair. Need an extra boost? Try Batiste Dry Shampoo with added benefits like volumizing, texturizing, and more. Buy Batiste now, in-store or online at your nearest retailer.
It's a common sense recap of the big stories. It's Katz and Cosby on 77 WABC.
Joining us now is Professor Alan Dershowitz, of course, the great Harvard Law School professor emeritus, also best-selling author of War Against the Jews. Professor Dershowitz, this is really frightening, this new news, that this guy has now been arrested for threatening 6 Supreme Court justices. He looks like he has liberal tendencies, and he amped up his comments right after the Supreme Court came down on the immunity issue, which favored Trump.
Look, let's be very clear. There are no threats to democracy from either candidate. If elections are fair and elections take place, nobody is threatening democracy because we have our system of checks and balances. And there were threats to democracy, people thought, back at the beginning of the Republic, during the Civil War. We can deal with those kinds of threats if they are electoral. What we can't deal with is assassinations. And we're going to see more of it. When you see people like Professor Lawrence Tribe talking about Trump, if you shoot at him, you must shoot to kill, or Chuck Schumer threatening justices of the Supreme Court, standing in front of the Supreme Court and threatening them, you know, they're going to say they didn't mean physical threats, but when you have these crazies listening, they listen and they hear what they want to hear. So we have to agree to cut back the rhetoric. And if we don't do it, there are going to be more, and some of them will be successful. Look how close the first assassin came to killing President Trump. I'm in an airplane now on the way to hear President Trump's speech to a Jewish group. I'm going to meet him and talk to him, and I'm sure this issue will come up.
Yeah, absolutely. To me, it is so dangerous, Professor. That's what's so scary is that, they have come. Look how close it was in Butler, Pennsylvania. And look how close, as Tony was just talking about, the guy laying in wait for 12 hours in Florida. And now you have this guy. You know what I also thought of, Professor, is Justice Kavanaugh. Remember, the guy was loaded for bear outside his house.
A gun and a knife. He could have come so close to doing it. Look, the only threat to democracy is not in an election. It's in an assassination. The only threats to democracy come from people with attempt to try to kill our leaders. And that's why we have to redouble our efforts in the Secret Service. The Secret Service failed both times. They're patting themselves on the back because they had one brilliant Secret Service agent who spotted a gun and then that woman who took pictures. Yeah, but how do you let a guy with his record be for 12 hours in the bushes without 10 Secret Service agents coming upon him immediately? It's just unthinkable. And the Secret Service just hasn't done the right job. It's a matter of luck that nobody so far has been killed, and we can't trust on luck. That's the real threat to democracy, not who gets elected.
Yeah, absolutely. Professor, before I also let you go, I'm sure you have seen this, that some members of the squad, AOC, for example, and then Bernie Sanders in the Senate, have said that maybe there should be a stopping of arms to Israel. They are saying that Israel violated international law with what happened with these amazing pager.
Did AOC's pager explode?
I know a little about international law. Israel complied completely with international law. They went after communication devices that are used by terrorists. If the people put their terrorist communication devices near children, that's on them. And Israel has a complete right to do that. I hope they will continue to do that. And I hope they will continue to assassinate leaders of terrorist organizations to prevent them from killing truly innocent people. And it's not a violation of international law. It's exactly a compliance with international law. But I haven't heard AOC speak much about the violations of international law that occur every day from Hezbollah and Hamas and other organizations. She's one-sided, and Bernie Sanders is one-sided. But my biggest criticism comes now for Canada, the gutless country to our north that refused to even vote against the UN resolution yesterday that said Israel has no right to defend itself. Canada abstained. New Zealand voted for it. Ireland voted for it. And it's pretty despicable when allies of the United States are willing to say that Israel should surrender and subject itself to genocide, which is what happens if Israel doesn't have the arms necessary to defend itself.
Yeah, it is. It is stunning. And you're seeing also, as you talk about the UN, putting out that message, and the fact that they are actually pointing the finger at Israel. Think about how brilliant that was. I mean, that was a major message. And you've got Iran, who is now hacking. You probably saw this, hacking the Trump team and giving information to Biden. As you know all too well, the person who, the group that sponsors Hezbollah is Iran, the country. It's the head of the snake. So what, they're supposed to turn a blind eye?
And Iran wants Trump to lose the election, obviously. They would also like to see Trump assassinated. I have no doubt about that. And they are our enemy. They are the new Nazis of from the 1930s that tried to take over the whole world. Iran has taken over now virtually every country in the Middle East, from Lebanon to Iraq to Syria, and we're not stopping them. The Obama administration facilitated them, gave them money and resources to continue that terrorism.
Right. We gave them Iraq. I mean,
and we gave them Iraq. Yeah.
You know, and by the way, right now they're funding Hezbollah. They're fighting. They're fighting through Hamas with Israel, right? And they're attacking U.S. cyber. So they're planting. What I'm trying to say, I'm losing my train of thought. I apologize, Alan. Is Iran is our enemy. We cannot let Iran go nuclear. Biden, Harris will do it, and then the rest of the Middle East will follow. It's the worst thing we could ever let happen.
And it's even more than the Middle East. They now have their sights set on Sudan, Darfur, where they are cooperating in a real genocide that's taken place. They're not going to be satisfied until only their brand of Islam is acceptable, not only throughout the Middle East, but throughout Europe. And they are the greatest threat that the world faces.
So why would we let them go nuclear?
Yeah, we shouldn't. And the United Nations,
of course we shouldn't.
Instead of giving them $4 billion in exchange for 5 hostages, what the administration should have said was, unless you get the hostages back to us in 48 hours, we are bombing your nuclear reactor and we're going to assassinate your leaders. You don't give people something in exchange. Democracy doesn't in exchange for hostages. What you do is you threaten to destroy them. And I guarantee you that they would have capitulated and freed the hostages.
The problem
that's the only
is,
thing they understand.
But the problem is, you guys, this administration doesn't have the will. I mean, it's clear.
I agree with you. I don't think they have the will. And, we'll see what happens. But right now, the world is in great danger from Iran. They are the villains of the world. And it's not only Israel. It's not only the United States. It's not only Europe. Not only Africa. It's basically the whole world is now at risk as the result of Iran's export of terrorism.
Yeah, absolutely. Professor Dershowitz, give the president our best. I know you said you're going to see President Trump soon. Thank you. We love you. Thank you for being here, Professor.